same time.
Hey, thank you, Stuckles. Thank you. Oh my god. Thank you.
Someone's a savior.
And just to show you that I'm a man of my word, you have all the power.
Random guys now, Mark.
No, Stuckles.
I'm joking.
Just don't abuse your power, Stuckles. All right, we are good. All right, let's start in this. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome everybody to episode 25 of The Beast Stands. I am your host, The Beast. Abby, what's good? On today's episode, I got a special guest in the form of FGC veteran from Melbourne, Sol. What's good, my dude?
Pleasure, everyone. I'm good. Yourself?
Very good. I've been great ever since Usman won that title fight. Nothing.
The happiest I've ever been.
Nothing. Like it's been what? Almost
4 days.
4 days.
Yeah, 4
like,
5 days.
Nothing's been able to bring me down. I'm,
Hey man, I don't blame you. I can't remember the last time a Syrian won anything, so I'll just run with yours.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. Great night of fights. For anyone who's not an MMA fan or UFC fan, we're talking about the fight card that just passed. Real good fights. Shout outs to Usman. Shout outs to my Nigerian brethren.
That's a good chance to give him a shout out. I don't blame you.
Watch out for Israel. He's next. And you also might see an African champ in the form of Ngannou. So yeah, watch out. We're coming for you. But yeah, back to this podcast. So I'd like to start off the podcast with, for those who are new, with a little intro regarding themselves. So I'll give the people a little intro. It can be long or as short as you want. Just about yourself, how you got into the FGC, and just a little bit about yourself.
Essentially, name's Sol. Got into the FGC on the release of SF4, so roughly 2009-ish. We'd been playing fighting games for quite a while though. Like started basically on Capcom vs SNK 2, which on the Dreamcast days, and then we moved to Guilty Gear. I can't remember which version though, but we were never really good. It's just we played games. And then SF4 happened, so the arcade scene happened, and then we ventured on from there, and that's essentially where the FGC route came from. On the side, for my main career, I'm a photographer, and yeah, basically, I'm just this guy.
Nice. But Street Fighter 4, like,
that was the game. Yeah.
Street Fighter 4 is like it's only the previous edition of the current title, but it seems so long ago. And obviously, like for people who aren't familiar with yourself, it might seem like ages ago. And before you got into fighting games, from memory, you and your crew were into like
Halo.
Yeah.
Halo players. Yeah. We played Halo competitively as well from about 2007 to 2000 and just before SF4 came out. Yeah. So it's a good 2.5 year block. We played competitive Halo. We traveled for it too, so we got quite serious.
Oh, really? International?
Yeah.
Or I mean,
no. We had
just local. I mean, sorry.
Yeah, we went to so qualification to go to Germany. Didn't win, but yeah, we tried to win.
Nice.
Yes. So the competitive edge has been there for quite a while.
Yeah, that's interesting because there's not many people in the FGC, well, that I know of or have talked to that have, I want to say, been at a good level of both. How different are they competitively at that high level? Because
I guess Halo is substantially different because it's team based. Can't really do everything yourself. Yeah, so SF4 is obviously all you. So that's probably the biggest difference. But other than that, I mean, you still got reactions. You still got it's not like SF4's got footies, but that one's got like you need to learn call outs and where people spawn and stuff. They have similar traits, but it's the most of the team aspect that carries the most weight to the difference between that and SF.
Okay. So like the entry route for the FGC, like fighting games for most people is kind of similar. I mean, you said you started with Street Fighter 4, but like what triggered like your first FGC event or offline event?
It was. I remember the first one was the Couch Warriors. It was. I remember the first person I versed. I can't remember the first person I versed, but I remember the person that eliminated me was Wei. I'm not sure if you remember Wei, boxer player.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the guy that eliminated me, but I entered that because I thought I was good. And now, granted, I made top 8 at that event, so I thought I was even better than. It just carried away from there. Yeah, so that's where it all started. It was a Couch Warriors event. I remember.
Interesting. You obviously had the game at on console, but
Yeah.
Street Fighter 4 came out in era in Australia where our arcade scene was actually still doing pretty well. Like there was
it was thriving.
there were a lot of arcade locations across not just Melbourne but all of Australia. So you had that
at
option.
that time.
Yeah, you had that option to play either at home or at the arcade. Speak about that a bit.
Well, I mean the home situation was optimal essentially because online wasn't too bad at the time. Plus, you got to play everyone you wanted to play against. I mean, you didn't have to play all the usual suspects from Melbourne. You could play the international, the Sydney scene, the Queensland scene, the Adelaide scene, etc. But I always thrived on the arcade scene. I was never fully into it because, like, from the OG days, because I would have been a baby during those days. But I absolutely loved the SF4 arcade days. They were by far and away the best for me.
Yeah,
it's just that feeling of competing against the person that's literally across you or that way. It's just and mix and match. It's awesome. And also, there's always $1 on the line, so it meant so much. It meant so much.
100%. Like there's casuals on console, and then there's casuals on console are a completely different vibe from casuals at the arcade because
absolutely, yeah.
Money's on the line.
There was stories.
Yeah, you go.
There were stories of Penn Fink. There were stories of Penn. He was one of the locals at the time from Melbourne. He was a pretty good player. He was playing a random at the arcade at Box Hill, and he kept doing the blanker hop to annoy the guy and throwing him. And the guy went across the arcade and threatened to stab him. That's what it was, man.
Oh man, dude, that's a recurring story. I'm sure everyone has a story like that, which is unfortunate.
Like that,
but,
yeah.
But it's just, dude, like the Street Fighter guys have that. I'm sure the Tekken guys have that at some stage. Yeah.
Oh, there's always that character. I mean, Blanca was that one. You got Eddie in your game. There's always that one character.
Not even just the character. It's like you don't know what type of person you're playing. You're like this guy, he might snap and just like. If it's not a regular or one of the guys, it could be around him. Like who, I don't know how he's gonna react to me beating him. But yeah, but honestly, in my opinion, like it's just the way I grew up with fighting games. The arcade scene, it was a jungle, man. It made you work.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just that. You really had characters left, right, and center. Not actual characters in the game, like real life. I mean, we had this guy named Banker Ryu, literally a banker that worked across the thing, just come in every now and then and just literally match DP. He was an icon. Like to this day, he's mentioned. Just a random dude that never actually entered a tournament. That's the best part of the arcade to me.
So, what character did you play?
At the start, Ryu, obviously. I seem to do that in every single Street Fighter game I play because it's like, hey man, I'm gonna try to carry myself with a fireball and DP. And then I played Ryu as well, strictly because I was on pad at the time.
Yep.
And I didn't know how to do charge moves and stuff on the pad. I was really no good at it. So I went simple. And then when I learned stick, I started venturing off, trying new characters and whatnot.
Was the transition hard? Because that's a lot of thing that people like. It's mainly new players bring up. Should I start with pad? Should I start with stick? Is there a difference or?
It was difficult, but at the same time, you're kind of forced to learn quickly on the arcade because I didn't have a stick at home at the time, so you're on the go learning like tournament sort of style, which was pretty good. I felt like I learned quicker in that environment.
Yeah,
not just sitting at home practicing. So it was good. I learned quite quickly from that, and then I purchased the stick and then went forward from there.
I assume because like of the arcade scene, that's what prompted the decision to learn stick.
Absolutely, because it just I love that scene, so I'm like I'm not going to restrict myself from being able to enter those tournaments. just because I don't play on the stick.
Interesting. So that was about back in 2010.
Yeah, well, nine-ish, moving into 10.
2009. And see,
Yeah.
I was that's a hazy period for me as well, because that's around the time that I started playing at the arcades. I remember playing I think Tekken 5 came out before. Yeah, Tekken came out before Street Fighter 4, because I remember seeing Street Fighter 4 release at the arcades at White House, if you remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know how many offlines were happening at that point when you came in.
Actual tournaments, not many. I think Couch Warriors, once it went to console, was the only ones happening at that point. I can't remember. I might be wrong. I think there was one actual entry tournament, but that wasn't an actual FGC setup tournament.
Yeah.
That was a Galactic Circus, sort of promoting the game, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Couch Warriors were the originals for running Street Fighter 4 tournaments, if I remember correctly.
And you just mentioned that tournament you came top 8. Was it? That wasn't a major, wasn't it?
No, that was a BAM monthly. It was a Rambat. It was a
Rambat.
Yeah, it was one of the BAM Rambats.
What was your first big major?
I want to say a BAM. I'm pretty sure it was a BAM. I just can't remember if I was any good or not. I'm trying to remember.
Whoa.
It would have been okay. So my first memory of BAM is, well, the only one that comes to mind is the 5v5 one, which is where we versus Sydney. But I was good then, so I'm not sure if I'm just my mind's erasing when I was shit. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember. What if we can find out what year that was? Then I could probably dial it back.
We'll see if we can come back to it. Just most people's first major is kind of memorable to them. Maybe it's a repressed memory that you're not.
Yeah, just fucking dug it in the ground, bro. It's gone.
So, spoken how you got into the FGC. Street Fighter 4 was your main game, but let's talk on the subject of how Shadowlogic came about, if we can talk about that.
How it came about. Okay, so basically, me, Ali, and Dave and Steve. Steve was the main one at the time. This is before Chris Ho came in. We all ventured down the path of wanting to run events, but not because basically we were seeing BAMs and OHN were awesome, but we were. Well, I mean, you go from watching Evo. I remember, I think it was 2010 when Evo, all those fucking phase and stuff were coming out and all that, and it just looked so fun with the internationals.
Yep.
And we ventured down the path of wanting to try to see if we could run an event with international presence. That was the whole idea behind it, because no one was doing it here, and we all sat down. We tried to work out logistics, obviously hosting a tournament, location. Is it going to have internet for streaming? Are we going to stream, etc., etc.? And then we had to go down the path of picking the guests, which was the difficult one, because at the time it was really all over the place to see. I mean, who were the top players, sort of thing. And if they'd come to a random Australian local, like, what would it take? Would we have to pay for them, etc.? Like, would we have to pay their flights plus an actual presence fee? There was no idea behind it. So we went down the path of contacting Inaba at the time. His name's Inaba. He was the head of God's Gun. Yeah, and then he talked to us through it, and then we went down of deciding Takeda and Margo were the first two we ventured to wanting to get, and we had to contact Takeda directly. Lucky enough, he had come Australia before.
Yep.
And then so he was comfortable wanting to come back. I think he said a story about going on Ayers Rock. So I'm like, all right, there's that. Yeah, I'm like, all right, cool. And he was really
to come to Australia.
Yeah, I'm like, Ayers Rock, all right, cool, man. Yeah, he was really cool about it though. Like, talking wise, he didn't really care that we weren't really known, etc. He just wanted flight and accommodation, which was cool. We were cool with that. And then Margo went through Inaba. We had to pay Margo for the flight and thing, but we also had to pay for the presence fee. I think it was $1,000. So that was okay. We were okay because Margo was really a big, like, he's a big deal now, but he was really big at the time with the OG Saget.
Yeah.
And then the third one we were struggling with until Evo happened, and then that was Gamerby. game came about. He basically marked his territory at that event with his 8 on, and then he was the third. So they're known as the original 3.
Yep.
Till this day, and
now that you mention it, like it's starting to come back that the first Shadowloo had 3 guests.
Those were the original 3. Those 3 there, and that's basically how it started. It was really, really short timing planning wise. Like we were in a bit of a rush. It was essentially from the start of the idea to actually running the event was probably about a 4-month window, if I remember correctly.
Good Lord.
Yeah, it was. I don't know what we were doing, to be honest. But
I gotta praise their ambition because, starting a major in Australia is like very like short and steady. I mean, you just grow and then you consider the idea of like international guests and you hope you get big enough that like they want to come across themselves and the idea of sponsorship. But from the get-go to invite like those heavy hitters, no,
it was a risk.
I'm not saying I'm giving you praise for the ambition, but it's just if I was on that team, I'd have been like, ooh.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what it was. The idea was if we're gonna run one, there's no point of running another event which would have just mixed in with all the others.
True, you wanted to establish
something
it as
different.
Exactly.
That's what it was. Because there was essentially it's like business, man. If there's a room for something and no one's done it yet, you obviously try it, see if it grows or not.
No, 100%. And
that's how Shadowloo was born.
Nice. An obvious success because it happened a lot, many times afterwards.
This is where it comes down to. It depends how you're looking at success. So if you're looking at success predominantly and only on basically profit, I wouldn't say it was the greatest success in the world. But if we're talking about making a name for yourself and essentially getting recognition for the event and for Australia, because I remember we made like specifically in 2012. We're skipping a little bit here, but that year. A lot of our players actually gained international recognition.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's the little things that you take as wins, honestly, because we weren't really in it for the money. I'll be completely honest with you. It's not something we were thinking, hey, let's do this, we'll make bank. That's just not what came to mind. It was, we love the game. And so seeing it grow here with us was really a genuinely good feeling.
Yeah, 100%. I see where you're coming from. And especially because coming first and foremost as players, where you just want the experience to be a great one, and back then when like FGC wasn't known to be getting money, so 100%.
Nah, it definitely wasn't back then. Yeah, so you had to essentially back then, man. You had to take the risk of paying over the top to get guests around because they weren't going to come for no reason. There wasn't much here for them to gain. There wasn't like the pro tours. There wasn't anything for them to actually really. There wasn't sponsors. Yeah, there wasn't big profit earnings from the event for them. So you really had to go out of your way to actually get something going.
So in terms of international presence, if you skip a couple of years, you guys went from like the major 3 to like.
Man, that wasn't even a couple of years. That was the very next year. Yeah, we went from 3 to 44, if I remember the number correctly.
Christ.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was very weird year. So essentially, we saw what could be with the first SS. So everyone was having fun. All the locals loved having Takeda, etc. here. And then we went down. Specifically, I did with the idea of getting talent that wasn't actually tournament famous. So essentially, what was happening at the time was there was all those YouTube channels like Yoga Flame, etc. would upload highlights from actual Xbox Live and stuff. So I would look at who was the most popular at the time on the YouTube channels of the online players, and then that was the hard part, actually trying to track down those players to get their emails and stuff.
I can imagine.
But that's where like Gachikun and stuff came from, which was pretty cool because if you look where Gachikun is now. He went from an online player, and before we got him, and now he's like winning CPT tournaments and stuff, which is cool.
And when you highlight the part about some of these international players like never traveled, but you brought them out, they get a bit of recognition coming.
And that's where it ventured from there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's real good. I was flipping through, just going down memory lane, and I'm like, I saw a picture of Mark, man, and I completely forgot. Yeah, he attended as well.
Yep, that was 2011 as well, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that
That was the year, man. That was the year we lost a hell of a lot of money,
mm-hmm,
but that was the year Shadowloo actually made a name for itself, really,
mm-hmm,
because everyone watched that year. I mean, because I remember, like, at that time, a lot of events were hovering between you looking at 10,000 viewers or something. We
mm-hmm.
got 26,000 viewers for that event. That was a really big deal at that time. A really, really big deal.
That's crazy, especially back then, and
Yeah, that's what.
for an Australian tournament.
Yeah, that was the biggest part because I remember, especially there was one memory I had. Toxie beat Makoto. Makoto played Vega at the time. He was a really good Vega, and Toxie beat him on stream, and it was just I remember heavy popping off. It was in all the trailers we ended up using, but that made me feel like it was worth it. Seeing that happen, like because we're close with Toxie and stuff.
Mm-hmm,
Seeing them beat an international,
mm-hmm.
it just felt like all of it was worth it at the time, which was a really really fulfilling feeling.
Yeah. Those profiles didn't just extend to the one just limited to Street Fighter. Like they crossed
Yeah,
down
there
to
was
all games. Like
Tekken
I
and
remember
stuff.
a lot
Yeah.
of Solid Steph's games, Ant Man, Baxter,
Man, yeah.
cross.
Also, what's Tyrone's
Yeah.
from Queensland?
Yeah.
Yeah, Tom's as well. They all had moments, that's essentially what it comes down to. What SS was all about. Like the whole idea of Aussies making a name for themselves was the premises of the whole idea of it, which was cool because a lot of them did gain a lot of recognitions from those events.
Mm-hmm. Um, like Shadow happened like for a few years. Did you ever get to the point where like as much as you're doing it for the scene and just you might have been accumulating a loss. Did you ever start to think about like trying to make it a little bit more viable business wise, trying to get a few sponsors in to like maybe cut the costs?
Yes, yeah. So basically, sponsors were always a want to try to do sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
The only issue was that a lot of them weren't viable for them because they didn't have a presence in Australia.
Yeah.
A lot of the sponsors, so they were all like you're talking about. Mad Cats was the first one that really jumped on board,
Mm-hmm.
which is why we appreciated their help a lot. But other than that, like especially at that time, the
Yeah.
FGC wasn't really sponsor heavy. That's
Mm-hmm.
the real issue. And yeah, so like we did want to make it viable to keep going profit wise,
Yeah.
but it was difficult, man. It got really really difficult. The idea of what happened in 2011 though, going back there,
Mm-hmm.
the idea was pay for those guests. So we paid for out of the 44, I think we paid for about 30 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at for like in the 40,000s probably at that time, a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea was get them. Hopefully your tournament looks good, and then people want to come. That's the whole idea. It kind of worked. So like we halved that number of needing to get players, and then the same amount of players almost came in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
So it's working, but still you're still looking at a loss money wise. It wasn't really profitable at that time.
Yeah,
Put it that way.
obviously, yeah. Like the
Yeah.
idea was good. It's just the time.
It's not a. If I'm looking back at it, it's not a money making idea. It really wasn't. Now, if you did a few things differently, hindsight, yeah, of course. But at that time, where you're trying to rush everything, where you're trying to get everything going, there's obviously heaps of stuff we would have done differently personally. But I don't regret any of it, to be completely honest. It made its mark. A lot of people had fun. I mean, that was really what it was for me, man. Because I was a kid. You got to remember, I was like 19 at the time.
Yeah, I can. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I mean, one thing that can be said of like the people who did play fighting games in that era was how heavy memory-wise the Shadowloo events were. They were epic from everything from like to this day. I'm not even being biased. To this day, FGC wise, trailer wise, I have never seen anything on the level of the trailers you guys used to put out.
That's thanks to Good Man Code, man. He's the talent wise. But that's another thing we went down as well. The posters as well of the revealing players. It's a trend a lot of tournaments picked up after us. So we left an imprint, even internationally, which really felt good considering we were just three local dudes that just wanted to run a tournament.
Was there a bit of I'm not sure because I didn't really pay attention to how you did performance wise during the Shadowloo events. Did you compete while organizing or?
I did. The main reason I did though is because we discussing between Ali, me, and Chris was there at the time. Ali, Chris, me, Steve, and Code was I do the planning before the tournament, so I'd get the players, etc., etc.,
Yep.
and then Ali would do the brackets and all that stuff. So Ali would enter, but he'd struggle big time because he had to do multiple things.
Obviously.
Yeah, and then because I genuinely practiced SF like a lot, so I wanted to enter. It did affect my performance a bit, a few times, but which is understandable. But it's tough. It's tough, especially for Ali and Steve and Chris. They were the main three that were on day running, and they really struggled to enter tournaments because that's hectic, man. You're doing a million things. You're running, getting the guests. You're trying to feed the guests. You're trying to check on the stream. You're running the tournament, the brackets. That's way too much to enter a tournament.
I think that's when you realize early on, it was like, ooh, you can't juggle both. Like,
nope.
Yeah, especially for an event on the level of Shadowloo.
It's a hell of a lot, man. It's a hell of a lot to take on board. So I was actually gave credit to Ali because he'd enter tournaments and he wasn't placing well, but he made a scene every time he had a tournament game on. So he was fun to watch. So credit to Ali for that.
But where you guys were able to like shine a little bit is when you had a few times where you travel internationally. Correct me if I'm wrong. You went to SEAM Major.
Yeah, SEAM, SEAM and EVA were the two biggest ones I went to. So that was 2011.
So you did go to EVA.
Yeah, 2011. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Describe that experience.
Nerve-wracking, probably the word. Probably the word. Yeah. Because you're just not used to it, man. You've seen Evo for all these years. I mean, this predates SF4 for me as well. And you finally get there, and then when you're lining up for your stream match, granted, my first stream match was Takedo, so that's not fun.
Oh wow, you went stream straight away. Wow.
Yeah, against Takedo, and it was nerve-wracking, man. Like, because you're lining up in a line. And it's a long-ass line to get to the stage. And in front of you in that line you're looking at all these top players. You're looking at the likes of Punko, you're looking at Margot, they're all in front of you lining up. And you're just standing there next to the kid like, hey, and yeah, man, it was just, I got on stage and when I look back at that match, I hadn't watched that match ever until last year, like for the first time rewatching it. Man, I was just crackling under pressure. I was just like, yeah, spirit fingers. It was a great experience. Specifically, it was a great experience, though. Not just a learning experience, playing wise, like trying to adapt to playing on stage, but it was also the hype, man. Like if you look back at that 2011 year, where you had, I think that's where Kazanoka came on the scene. You had Latif placing second or third with his Viper.
Dude, I haven't heard that name in ages. Oh.
Yeah. You had Punko, Seth. That was like an insane year to the point where I remember one moment, like we were all as an Aussie crew. There was like 20 of us, I think. And we were all standing up on our chairs, popping off. And then Heavy Weapons almost fell off his chair. And like, I can't remember who saved him, but man, that was close. I'm like, nah. Oh, but it was just fun. I mean, that's what it is. That's what the SGC is. Traveling with your friends, competing. It's awesome, man.
That's awesome. And I feel like the countries like Australia, where we're so far away from those massive level tournaments, able to like appreciate it a little bit more, because it's always the question of like, how do we do against international competition? Are we good enough? And two, like attending a event on that scale for the first time and trying to enjoy it, not let it affect you. It's just. Yeah.
It's tough because the thing is, no matter how much you practice, really, essentially when you it's starstruck. The reality is, you're starstruck when you play the likes of Takeda, etc., especially for the first couple of times. And we just weren't used to that, and that's why I think SS helped us personally, because we started to travel after that as well, like the few of the top players, and to the point where 2012 came around in SS. And we all did well. Like all the Australians did well. Like we had a highlight win or a highlight moment against the internationals at that event, which was a really redeeming feeling on the aspect that, hey man, we might actually be catching up. Like it was a really, really good feeling. So that's where, for me, the reaping rewards of SS came from. Seeing us do well against the internationals genuinely was an actual heartwarming moment for me.
Yeah, that's great. Like, and I know that extends over to Tekken as well because like you talk about getting internationals over for Street Fighter, but we got like a few for Tekken as well. Um, I remember like when Sane helped me to Takedo came for Tekken as well initially. Not many people
He
know that
was good
he used
too.
to
Yeah,
he
he
used
was
to play
good.
Tekken, and that answered a lot of questions that we have like early on because those were early FGC days. No one had really an opportunity to test themselves against international apart from the opportunities that some of the Aussies had going to SBO and whatnot.
SBO. Yep, yep.
But yeah.
But that was the idea we went with. We were so essentially we were obviously picking predominantly SF4 players
Hmm.
at the start, and then we started to venture off to get one guest at least for each big game. So a game that was getting a lot of entries,
Hmm.
and that's where I don't know. I think we went to you or Yusuf. I can't remember. But to ask about Saint, if you like which player you wanted, and every time we asked the Tekken player, Saint came up,
Yeah.
and we're like, all right. So we went through with getting him, and man, he loved it here. Like
Yeah.
every single time we talked to him, we asked him if he needed anything. He's just super appreciative of you guys. So that was a testament to your crew, man.
Yeah.
Honestly, that he loved it so much.
I mean, I think it's a combination of like, Same being an awesome guy, but the Tekken scene in Australia is great, just welcoming and it was just a great time all around. So I still like he still speaks about Aussie coming down here. Like well, he was here for BAM last year. I ran into him at Evo. I think 2 years ago, and like I'm like, how does this guy remember me? I'm just so random from Australia, and I'm just like,
Well, that's what it was, man.
it's
That's
real,
when
it's real humbling.
yeah, but that's what it is. It's genuine appreciation from his end
Mm-hmm.
because it's like us, man. When you run into a real sort of dude
Mm.
and they're just you mesh with them, you don't really forget that person.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. So, and they're also their cultures, not just Japan, like Korea, etc. They're all very appreciative of respectful people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it comes from.
100%. Um, I wanted to talk a little bit about the idea. So Shadowloo had established itself. But let's speak a little bit locally about the idea of Shadowloo HQ. How did that?
Okay. Well, that came down to the aspect of Ali. So this also stems from Halo too.
Mm.
So the concept of having a LAN center was one we had for Halo back then as well. So this is way back,
Mm.
and we went down the path of trying it back then, but it just wasn't feasible because Halo was stemming a little bit at that time with the Halo 3 dying. So we held it back the idea for a good 4 or 5 years, and then we found the HQ on in West Melbourne, I think it was, and we're like, you know what, man? I think it was like $4,000 a month. It's a hell of a lot of money, and we're talking to Chris. We're like, you know what, man? We can try it. It looks like it's got potential. And the whole concept of the idea was to have a home fighting games, like a genuine home, so someone could come during the week, during the week. That was the whole concept behind it. And then, yeah, so we just started running tournaments, etc. We wanted it to be a 24/7 LAN center, but it wasn't feasible at that time, especially internet based as well. There was no
100%.
MBN, there was no nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember it. I remember visiting the first time. Like the concept is great. And it's one that's like really needed, especially in today's day and age. It's just like you said, the internet wasn't able to
It's a
support.
big issue. It's a very big issue.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you guys stream from there at all, or?
We did. Well, that's what we were doing. So basically, because there wasn't an actual direct MBN service, which MBN isn't cheap, but it's relatively cheap compared to what we had to pay for. So we had to pay for a business satellite service, which was an extra $1.5K a month for just internet on top of the rent. So it's essentially $4,000 rent, which is already tough to cover. Went up to about 5.5 because of the internet.
Man.
That's the sacrifice you have to make. The one underlying factor I always say about SS is with the whole concept of Shadowlogic as well. So you're talking about the events, the locals, you're talking about the HQs. We were all before our time. I always carry that around me. We really came before our time. Like I think if we were to have done it in the last maybe 2 years till now, I think you would have thrived more. Like tournament wise, etc. You're looking at sponsors, you're looking at esports, you're looking at all that. Gaming is booming in general.
Yep. Australia right now is in a period FGC wise where there's so much opportunity.
There is a ton of opportunity, which is great. Honestly, that's what you want. You want some sort of reward for the games that you love. That's also it's a dream for a human being. Your hobby turns into a career.
Yeah, 100%. Did you take away from the fact that, like, some events that are running now might have taken away from your model or whatnot?
No, I don't think so. Because I think really the concept isn't a unique one. It's not unique. It's just who was willing to take the risk, the gamble. It really was a gamble at the time because you're going out of your way. You know you're going to lose money. You just have to hope. You have to look for what is a win to you in that regards because you know you're going to lose money. That's the reality of it all. And that's why, thankfully now for all these events around us, like even BAM, OHN, etc. Like I'm thankful that they actually can get internationals easier now. I really am because it makes the whole thing about it wasn't us being the best SS. Honestly, it wasn't. It would have came across as that a few times back then because there was rivalries, obviously between tournament organizers, etc.
Yep.
But the real underlying factor was the community, man. That's really what it was. It's you. Your community thrives. You thrive. That's essentially what it is.
Yeah. And considering like events and whatnot, what back in the early days, it might have been hard, and like you said, some people might have seen each other as rivalries, which may have been harder.
Well, that also, I'm man enough to admit a few of them were on our behalf as well. Like we could have done things differently, should have done things differently, but I wouldn't. Hindsight is great, but I wouldn't change anything because it happened. It's the reality. I can say I'll change anything, but it's not going to change a thing. But pre-planning, like we can remember, everything we did was rushed. Our whole concept was, let's just get it out there, see what happens. That's what the whole concept was. Essentially living in a world at full throttle, essentially. And I don't know why we were doing that. I'm thinking back on it now. I don't know why everything was so quick, but it's just we were eager to run events. So that's why SS wasn't a yearly thing. It was, you're looking at every 8 months, 6 months. I don't know. It kept changing.
Yeah. I can remember the passion behind you guys as organizers. So yeah.
It was passion. That's probably the only word I can use. I don't want to call it genius or anything, but passion.
So yeah, you guys were, you not only traveled internationally, but locally. You guys attended your OHNs. I'm sure you got your hot memories from that to take away, and well, competing wise mostly because you didn't have to worry about the stresses of organizing that.
I mean, I still to this day stress that OHN, I can't remember which year. I want to say 2013 or 14. It was when Marvel was at its peak, Ultimate Marvel. It was when we had the money matches between Ant-Man and KG and Toxie and KG. We had it was a cinema-like atmosphere. So when Ant-Man was playing KG and the game was on the big screen, essentially like being at a cinema. And man, it was like the feeling of, when you're watching it, basically when we were at UFC, you know that feeling? Yeah. So that feeling of being in the crowd and literally like you're in awe of what's happening on the screen, it was intoxicating. Like it was so good. And to this day, that's my favorite memory in the FGC. By far and away. It just felt like home.
I don't know if it adds to the experience, but I want to say that we came from an era during the FGC in Australia where rivalries were at its peak.
Yep.
Yeah.
In Australia specifically. Yeah, absolutely.
And I know there's no love lost between some states during that period, but you'd literally be going to another major in a different state because you'll be going to war. Like at the end of the day, you're all friends and buddies, but it's like we are going to take their trophy from that state.
Honestly, that's where, in my opinion, there has to be rivalry. There has to be in everything, in sport, in life, really. There has to be some sort of rivalry. It doesn't have to be a hated rivalry, just a rivalry.
Yeah.
Competitive rivalry, really. That's what it is. Because that's my favorite band memory as well, which was the 5-on-5, where it was that was my best fighting game memory, like as an actual competitor. So essentially, we lost most of our players early. And a couple of our strongest players early in the 5-on-5 against Sydney, and then in my first real moment of tournament play, I almost OCV'd Sydney at the time, which was awesome. Yeah. And then Human Bum, as I live to regret this day, still was in Sydney at the time, and I almost took him. I took a round off him, and then he beat me, and then unfortunately he OCV'd us. But that was another fun moment. And honestly, you look back at that stuff, and we were friends with Sydney, but we had a genuine competitive rivalry against them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that spanned over more than just Street Fighter. Because I think, my introduction into the FGC was around, Tekken 5, Street Fighter 4 for yourself. And to be honest, those were early day FGC days. I would like to think where, you're barely getting to know the people in your own city, let alone others. So obviously there's going to be that loyalty when traveling interstate. So, but
at the start.
At the start.
Well, that's what they become. Like Melbourne essentially felt like brothers. That's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
You're protecting your brotherhood.
Yeah.
Now, granted, slowly it ventured off, but it felt like a brotherhood.
What are your greatest memories going to OHN aside? Well, you brought up the money match, yeah.
The money match was the most surreal moment. The actual feeling of everyone screaming and the genuine hype when something happened. That was so good. It helped that Ant-Man won that money match, granted. So Melbourne won.
Go through a little bit how that transpired, if you don't mind.
How the money match transpired?
Yeah.
So basically KG on the OHN forums, I'm pretty sure it was at the time, he called out, I think, anyone at the time for money matches from Melbourne. He said any offer, I'm pretty sure it was. So KG, that's what he's mostly known for. He's a really, really good player, mind you. But he'll put any money on the line and he'll take anyone on. So it was cool. And then at the time, Ant-Man and Toxie, I'm pretty sure were our best two. It was, you had to add in Steph and stuff, etc. But they were all really, really good. Like, we had all our high-level players were really good. So Ant-Man accepted the offer. I'm not sure if for $500 or $1,000. Not entirely sure. And they had a first to 10, and it was the most, like, Ant-Man had the tactic of how to go under, I'm pretty sure it was Hawkeye's assist, which was the arrows, and KG didn't know how to deal with that. And then Ant-Man abused that, and he won the match. And honestly, the pop-off was the most awesome part of it all. But then the other part was KG was versing Toxie right after that. And we literally had to move from the venue to a hotel room.
Yep.
And the hotel room was literally a quarter at best of the size of the hotel. No, even less, honestly. And we had to be quiet too because it was late at night. And you can imagine a freaking money match for a lot of money where you literally have to whisper hype. It's like yes,
this is quiet hype. Holy hell.
It was the weirdest feeling. And to make matters worse, Toxie had either a similar team or exactly the same team as Ant-Man. And KG, during that down period, had gotten advice on how to deal with what Ant-Man had beaten him with. So Toxie didn't have a counter to that. And then it was, so it was essentially what Ant-Man did to KG did to Toxie. And you can imagine how awkward it was. Already the room was in silence. It was like, fuck. It was surreal. It was just, I mean, you got to think about the experience looking back at it. You're having a money match in literally a cinema like experience, and then you're having a money match literally an hour later in literally the most quiet room of all time. It was those were the peak feelings, man. Honestly, they were just awesome. Like, to this day, I'll always appreciate those memories.
What happened? There wasn't time for it afterwards, or
no? The venue was closing. Okay. Yeah, the actual main venue was closing because it was really late that day.
Yeah, that's a shame because probably you wouldn't have the same amount of people that wanted to see it live. Like,
it was crowded. It was crowded in that hotel, man.
It was? Okay.
Now, obviously, granted, he couldn't fit everyone, but that room was crowded.
I can just imagine people getting updates via text messages and the emotion.
Dude, I'm serious. You put yourself this way, right? Could you hear your notifications at an actual, like, a stadium event?
No.
You can't hear shit, right? In that thing, all you could hear was people's notifications going.
That's
great. Man, they were great memories. Great memories.
Yeah, personally, I love about Melbourne events. I love BAM, Shadowloo, but OHN has got some special memories for me, man.
I think OHN has a lot of special memories for most players because that's where the rivalry. So BAM and OHN had the rivalry scenes, but for some reason, going to enemy territory always created something.
Yep.
Always created something. And I'm sure if you ask Sydney, they'd probably say the same things for BAM as well. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, 100%.
What are your memories anyway?
For me, I gotta say, my I got a lot, but my first OHN will always be memorable because it was my first major ever. I mean, I was a kid with like the High Point boys in the western suburbs of Melbourne that were just playing continuously at the arcade. We thought we were good. We were leveling up, and then one year we hear, oh, like, okay, there's this tournament that's in Sydney, and it holds Tekken and other fighting games. And like one of the guys we used to play with had gone 1 year by himself, and he did pretty well. Probably won't know him. I'm talking about Cyrax. So me and Jono, B-Boy Phoenix, we decided to go the year after, and it was just great because it's more than just fighting at a big tournament. It's fighting different people, and it's
stepping out of the scene where you're used to. Yeah, absolutely.
And like, I don't know about you, my dude, but like, you know, when you're a big fish in a small pond, and like you think you're good, and then
dude, I have a story about that.
And then you verse actual competition. I'm like, dude, like I have so much work to do. I had no idea.
Now, Code's next to me right now, but I'm gonna put him under the sword. So there's a similar story to this. Code thought he was really, really good with Potemkin and Guilty Gear.
Yeah.
And then we went to a Couch Warriors event, and then Ferry, who was arguably one of the best, if not the best, Guilty Gear players in Australia,
dude, still is.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we had Code enter there thinking he's fucking all high and mighty top shit, and then I literally can't recall him touching Ferry in that game, like literally touching him. Code till this day hasn't touched Guilty Gear. He beat him so bad he left the game.
Poor dude made him retire. Oh man. But yeah, it's just memories like that. And look, I don't know how the power structure was in Melbourne and like comparably with Sydney, but like for Street Fighter, but Sydney was always the Tekken state. They were always dominant, always. They were always making the most of the top eights, the most players in the top eights. They were always, and it was just, that's why the year that Dion won OHN was like one of the most memorable for me, because it was like finally Victoria took one.
Finally Victoria won one. Yeah, that's an awesome feeling. We were similar in a sense. So basically, when Human Bomb was here. He was a Sydney local. That's when we struggled to win the big ones. It was always coming down to him and Toxie, almost predominantly. It was like, because realistically, him and Toxie were here, so this was about the gap between him and Toxie. But literally, the third place person was down.
Really?
There was a massive skill gap. We all caught up slowly, but at the start, SF4, it was Toxie and Human Bomb all the way, and that's why all the finals were them two. Like if you watch the old OHM videos, only them two, and we caught up slowly to when Bomb was around, but as soon as he left, we started to dominate a little bit. They still had really good players, but we were winning a lot more. And then when Shane came back, or came around, popped out of nowhere, he started winning a lot more for them as well. So it literally goes in cycles, like in sports, really, as well.
Yeah, which is good. I don't think it's good help, like depending on your viewpoint. For one particular scene to be just dominating for so long. I mean, it helped us in that, you know, Sydney winning for so long prompted like a couple of our best players to just be like, all right, we need to level up. We need to level up until, you know, Dion leveled up to the point where he took his win. So
that's what exactly I was about to say. So essentially, if someone's dominating long enough, it's essentially the idea of creating a diamond. Enough pressure, a gem's going to come out. And that's what happens. A really good player eventually comes out, and then that player dominates and helps the resurgence of said team, which it's a good thing to dominate a bit because it creates really, really good players, in my opinion.
It's very specific because, you know, you can have the reverse happen where it's just like the attitude.
Everyone gives up.
Everyone gives up. And it's just like, you know, like, what's the point?
Yeah. Well, that's why you hope the people who are actual strong-minded keep going.
Yeah, 100%. So, I want to talk about the last year that Shadowloo decided to hold their event.
That would have been 2015, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so essentially, what do you want to talk about specifically? Do you have any questions?
Just because Shadowloo 2014 had only just happened.
Yeah, there was a big tournament. Quick tournament.
I know like if you want to give the information, you guys at that point when deciding to hold it quickly knew like this was gonna be the last one.
No, not at the time. There was a hint between the group. There was like I wouldn't call it a fracture, but I would call it. Okay, you know when someone mentally checks out of something but is still doing it?
Yeah.
It was that's what was happening between a lot of us. So the idea of the turnaround came about because there was a few big guests that we couldn't get at the time for the SS in 2014, but they committed to 2015 if we had done it at a certain date. So our idea was pre-book these guys. So essentially, after SS finishes in 2014, we flip it over quickly, so we stay relevant quicker. It was in my idea. Again, hindsight 2020. I would have waited. Obviously, absolutely would have waited. But we were already quite checked out, man. Honestly, like because if you remember, someone had a camera at that SS, if you had a camera at the face of Steve, of me, of Ali, of Dave, of Code, we all looked literally just bereft of life. It's gone. There was just no passion. It was gone. It was like the whole what we done it for. Just it wasn't there anymore. I don't know what happened that year, but it was that time of life, and that was when in life as well we were kind of separating as a group.
Yep.
So not as friends, but like everyone was going their own way, sort of thing. That's where everything literally crumbled right in front of everyone. That was a sad day. It was a sad year for us, but everything comes to an end, unfortunately, man.
Yeah. So the event ran, and then you guys were like, "This was the last one."
Well, essentially, when you're running an event and you're kind of counting down, like the final hours of Sunday, you're basically out.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's essentially like an athlete. When you're getting like you're at top of your class and you're having fun and stuff, and you see people blitz past you and stuff, you know it's time to quit. That's what it felt like. It felt like one of those retirement sort of moments.
It's been a while since then. Do you guys ever get the inkling of trying to host another event, or even just come back and compete competitively, if not host?
Competing wise, I just can't find the passion anymore because I'm like, once work took like pure over for me and for Code as well. Yeah. It's too hard for me to actually pick up a game anymore, like mentally. Yeah. Not that I don't have the time, but to actually delve into the time and put full commitment. Yeah. I don't have it anymore because you got to remember, I was an 18-year-old kid when I got good at Street Fighter. 100%. I had no commitments, no nothing. But Code does want to. He's always brought it up. But we're just not sure what way to go about it. Because if it was to happen, it'll be more revolved around a local sort of feeling, like just a community, not over the top prizes, not gimmicks, just a good tournament which we can actually have fun with. Like we can enter, we can connect with the community again. But even then, honestly, man, it's just, especially with him, you know how busy he is now. Yeah. It's too tough. Busy. It's the love of the game is still there, but it's just life, man. Life takes over.
Yeah. You and him recently. You guys just came back from LA. How was that experience? You guys went to the Mortal Kombat reveal.
Yeah. So Code got sent over by Warner Brothers for the reveal, and he got me on board, and a couple of our friends joined us as well. That was awesome. The Mortal Kombat reveal was awesome because we saw a lot of old FGC heads like Wong, etc. and stuff there.
Oh, so you actually ran into a few OGs.
Yeah, a lot of them were there. Yeah, Alex Valle, etc. They were all there. It was fun, the LA trip in general, but man, it was busy. Just flat out busy. And that was mainly because of Code. But it was good. It was a good kind of busy because it was one of those trips where we didn't actually see what tourists would usually see, which is like talking about the Hollywood experience, etc. But we got an experience where not much people would ever be able to get, which is like meeting certain people. It was quite cool. All
right, dude. I don't want to deviate for too long, but you brought up Hollywood, and I have to bring up: Did Hollywood live up to your expectations? That I want you to be completely honest with me, because like after you give me your answer, I'll tell you why I brought this up.
Are you talking about the Hollywood experience, like it's in Hollywood Walk of Fame, etc.?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No. But look, it's something you should experience once. I'll put it that way. You should absolutely experience it just don't expect it to be a fantastic experience.
Dude, I don't even know if you should experience it once, because like when I went for the first time, I was staying with a friend, and they literally took me everywhere, and it came time for the for me to see Hollywood. And I'm like, "Are you gonna come?" And they were like, "No, no, you can go see." I'm like, "You don't want to see Hollywood?" I went to Hollywood. It was nothing like what I thought it would be.
Absolutely not.
100%. Like I thought, I'm in the right part of town.
It doesn't feel like
I
it,
went
man. I'm
across the
telling
Hollywood
you.
Walk from like, this is the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I mean, it's been freaking oversold. They need to clean this place up.
That's exactly what it is. It's an iconic area, but that's about it. It's iconic. It's just not a great experience. It's just iconic.
Dude, I literally spent 15 minutes there. I'm like, yeah, I'm done. I'm done.
Oh, I don't blame you. I think we spent probably 20 max and just left. I don't even think I took photos. That's how bad it was.
Yeah, I didn't take photos at all. Yeah, I was done. I was done.
Man.
Speaking about business, I also wanted to bring up I don't know if it was you personally, but Shadowloo got involved in a lot of fitness expos early in the day.
That would have been predominantly Ali.
Okay.
Yeah, Ali was trying to be what's the word I'm looking for?
Entrepreneur.
Not necessarily. What's the word? I don't know. Let's rock with entrepreneur, but it's another word.
Okay.
And he just wanted to expand the SS to any way he could. Now he knew a lot of people in the fitness industry, but with esports, see, this is another idea where I was saying if we did it in this timeline, it might have worked.
Yeah.
Because you talk about gaming, literally just 6 years ago, it's absolutely looked down upon.
Yeah.
Especially in the fitness industry. But now they're combining the two.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. We just did it at the wrong time.
Yeah. See, but yeah, it's funny because now it's translated to the point where, come every Arnold Expo, you guys are hot demand to be on deck. I mean, you guys are getting ready.
I do anyway. I technically work there now, so it's come full circle in that regard. So if we were having, let's say, SS at this time, we absolutely could have got something working with each other. But hindsight's 2020, my friend.
Yeah. As you say, ahead of your time.
Very much so. Very much so.
Sorry to cut you off. How have the Arnold Expos worked for you, and how have the events been working that?
Very good. It's an experience, man. Honestly, it's especially while I'm building my repertoire for photography. It just expands it opens a lot of doors essentially, and it's meeting all different types of people because it's not just fitness people there. It's all regular folk, it's parents because there's a lot of kids there as well for their kids, and it just grows it grows you as an individual, and my skills get better, and thankfully, it's actually gotten me to the point where I have traveled for it. I went to Hong Kong for the Arnold Classic. I shot at the Arnold Classic in Santa Monica when we were there in LA. So it's if you essentially start traveling for your job, you're always thankful for whatever gave you the opportunity.
That's okay. Yeah, sounds. I'm still yet to go myself. I mean,
come this year.
When is it? Next Saturday?
Next week. Yeah, next Friday to Sunday.
I'll be in Tasmania for their major.
The whole weekend?
Huh?
The whole weekend?
Yeah, dude. It's if you go to a major, like I'm at the point where I go like a day early because traveling and just arriving on tournament day, it's not enough. Even if it is just like a 2-hour flight away. So.
Have you been to Tasmania before?
Yeah. I went to their major last year. So.
Okay.
They're a great group of guys. The scene is real like. I just love those dudes. So I'm like once I went for the first time, I was just down to support them because they're real grassroots and they're headed in the right direction. They're really headed in the right direction. So.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. We talk about hindsight. Man, could you imagine the Tasmanian major when we were? It wasn't even a freaking literally. That's something you'd put in a hyperbole. It's like, nah, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Now look at it. That's awesome. Is it a good event?
Yeah, it's a real good event. Obviously, you have to account for the size difference with cities, but still, regardless, it's one of my favorite events, and it was one of my favorite events of that of last year. Like,
would you say it takes you back to the FGC?
It takes me back, just on the scale of just on the grassroots scale of it, because we're in this time period where almost every event we go to is like a massive one. There's a BAM, there's an
esports.
OHN.
Yeah.
I go to Evo. Everything like esports. Like I don't even know
Yeah.
how to describe that term anyway. But it is just,
in the weirdest way. It's the best described as going from a professional to an amateur event. But an amateur event isn't necessarily a bad thing in this world.
Yeah, but it did remind me a lot of the events back in the day, because like I said, it was grassroots, but like it was competitive. You had the whole, the Tassies are trying to defend their turf, and like one thing I've noticed, like it's just a quick segue. One thing I've noticed for my time in the FGC is like as you spent longer in, you've gotten to know the people interstate, and it's become like more like less combative and less rivalry based, and more like a one big family. So
great.
Now, instead of going over to OHN to like take off his head, like I'm going over OHN to catch up with so and so, and we're gonna play fighting games. So but yeah, it's real good event. I highly recommend it for anyone who wants to try their first major, like on a small scale. Like if BAM or something's too much, not that I'm saying don't come to BAM or what, but yeah.
Honestly, I hope people are supporting that event, because that's the only way that event's ever going to grow is with local support, man. That's the reality. And I hope people do, because why not give Tasmania a chance? Now, granted, I haven't been to the event, but you're speaking highly of it, so I'll definitely take your word.
No, and one thing I'm for is just, because Australia has humble beginnings. We're on the other freaking side of the world, so we have to support everything we do. Just
local, especially, of course.
If something's, don't just rely. I mean, we came from that area where there was just two events a year.
Yep, literally.
Yeah, 2 events a year, and like for someone who loves fighting games and you're tuning into international events that are happening, like, and they've got something happening every month or every week or something like that. And like Australia has the potential for that. Like now, especially like when you encompass all of our cities, and especially when you add in New Zealand and everything that they do, because they're just there. So it's just like the only way that's going to happen and be fruitful is if we support each other.
I think the concept of an Aussie circuit really could work. Not Aussie circuit. So what would it be called? Oceanic circuit, I think you'd call it, if New Zealand was involved. Yeah. I think that I genuinely believe that concept could work. Also, that concept could bring back rivalries too between states.
Yeah.
Because you'd have to go on each turf, which is cool. Yeah. I don't see why they wouldn't do it. I reckon that would be fun. Not everything has to be CPT based, etc. You can make a local sort of round robin sort of thing, or not even round robin, just a local circuit. I reckon that would be fun. Yeah, we got enough players.
Yeah, we do have enough players. And like interest for fighting games is at an all-time high in Australia.
All-time high.
You've got not only do you have players, you have so many games to choose from. It's ridiculous. I mean, like there was that running joke, like, say what you want about Street Fighter, like if you don't like the game,
we're talking about 5 here, right?
Yeah. If you don't like the game, like even if you just like, it might be hard if you are just a Street Fighter guy. Then I could see what, like, choosing another game you might struggle with. I mean, like, bring up yourself, Sol. Like, I know you haven't got a high opinion of Street Fighter 5, especially coming from 4.
I've grown to love it. I'll be honest. I've grown to love SF5 more while playing like the ZGs, etc. So getting beatings from good players, as long as you're willing to learn, it's a pretty good game. It is. I'll give it that.
Yeah. How hard is it
to readjust?
No, not to readjust.
But to go to a different game.
To go to a different game if you've always been like a Street Fighter guy, because the argument has been when the release of Street Fighter 5, it wasn't in its best light. So you have so many other games to choose from, and like it's easy to say, but if you're just a Street Fighter guy, it might not be that easy.
It comes down to 2 things to me. One is if something is relatable in that game, characters based, whether it's something has to make you attracted to the game. If there's nothing there, like no sort of attracted to the game, no matter how good you are or how adaptable you are, you won't play that game. You won't enjoy it. That's the reality. So if there's a character, etc., you like in that game, the adapting period has to come from you dropping the idea of playing that game like you're playing SF. You drop the how you look, like the idea of how you're playing SF, and you can learn that game. You just essentially going back to being a scrub. That's what it is. It's a scrub with some sort of knowledge, some sort of fighting game knowledge. Because fighting game knowledge does translate. That's one thing that I do know.
Yeah.
Like imports, etc. That translates.
Yeah, 100%.
So in that regard, you're right.
But I lost my train of thought. I can't believe why. I can't remember why I brought this up.
Something about the SF5 tournament? I'm not even sure.
God.
This is the curse of Soul speaking to me. Go on.
Oh man, maybe it'll come back to me. This is the first time it's happened to me in 25 episodes. But yeah. I don't know if it was my train of thought, but I'm just gonna say support your scene, and I can see the idea of
this goes back to the Tasmania thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any? You say you have no regrets. Is there one thing that you wanted to cross off that you might not have done? Like you pretty much done all the big things like what a fighting game player would want to do. I mean, number one is like visit the mecca of fighting game events, Evo. So
Evo, yeah. One thing I would have liked to do, honestly, probably an SBO event when they were at their peak.
Did you guys make Japan?
Nope. I still haven't been to Japan once, unfortunately.
Dude, not even for fighting games, just in general, just hit that place up.
I definitely can't. Honestly, I've been calling it off for so long now. I have to do it eventually.
The way you've been like telling me to hit up Hawaii is the same way I'm going to tell you. You gotta hit up Japan. You gotta hit up Japan, and even more so.
It's SBO always. I know people hated the single elim concept. But man, that caused you to be on your you're literally your ass was on fire 24/7 in that event. That's what it was. You could not relax. You can't do anything. It's just every single game was a final. That's I kind of like that concept. I don't mind it.
Yeah,
I single elim, but I don't mind it at the same time.
Look, it's just you have to just come from the mindset of it's just a different tournament format. Not every tournament format is going to be the same, and just adjust. To cater for that event. But God, that format breeds some killers. Jesus Christ.
Very much so.
Yeah. It's I mean, if that's a format you're used to on the regular, Jesus Christ.
I'm not sure you can ever get used to that, to be honest.
You reckon?
To single elim? I mean, it's the concept of being on game literally 24/7. Like, you have no room to breathe at all.
I guess no one is on 24/7.
Yeah, you're gonna falter every now and then. That's the reality. Especially in a scene like Japan, man. When there's killers, it's literally a killer if you just walk outside.
Yeah. I mean, it all goes back to Shadowloo, like just finding these no-name killers that that they have killers everywhere in the scene. It's just people don't know. Some guy in a business suit who is a banker.
Exactly.
No one has heard of. It's just like he's able to go toe-to-toe with Daigo. It's just people haven't heard of it.
That's where I will compliment. See, I was a huge advocate of the arcade scene straight. Like, I would always choose that over online. But online did give us a lot of the names you see now. They all started on console. Like the Japanese. Like, they were obviously playing on the arcade, but they got their know-how and their fame off online. So that's probably one aspect of this generation that I'm thankful for online gaming of Street Fighter, or fighting game wise anyway. Because look at how much names. Like when you got like Jayobin, who was known as a Reckless Ryu.
Yep.
That's what he's known as an SF4, and he got top 8, I think, in Evo Japan, which is awesome because you see a guy that was, and you saw him translate to almost winning a tournament now, which is just awesome to me, to be honest.
Yeah. Thankfully, Japan have always had the infrastructure to benefit from like good internet.
Very good
internet. Where we struggled, but and they're also the home of the arcade scene. So
yeah, they had every perk to get good at the game. Put it that way. Every single thing that perk wise they had to get good at the game, they had it.
Yeah.
They had no lag online gaming. They had an arcade most places you went, and they had top level players regularly on the go.
And as far as competition, like they're in a location geographically where they can afford to. If you've got the means, they can travel. If not, your population base is so dense where you might not have to.
Well, it's not even that. It's the population ratio to elite level talent ratio is so high.
Yeah,
that's the other thing. That's the other thing you have to take into consideration when you're talking about Japan. It's crazy. Like, the numbers are insane. Like the regular average player in Japan is a good player most places. That's the crazy thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a testament to their community, man. It's insane.
Yeah.
And look, I think that's a testament to how the system works, though. The catching up system. I mean, you look at it now, it's not always a Japanese person winning. There's people from America that win. There's people from other Asian nationalities that win. There's Europeans that win. I think that's awesome. And that diversity at the high level breathes life into people getting good at the game, no matter which region you're in.
Yeah. 100%.
Now all we need is an Australian winning, an Oceanic, an Oceanic person winning.
I did not settle for a New Zealand dude.
That's what I'm saying, and this goes. That's why I said Oceanic. This goes back to the regret point you were talking about. It's not a regret, but I would have loved, and it's still to this day, I'm dying for the day to see an Australian winning a big major, like a CPT finals event or an Evo. Man, could you imagine that day? One of the people we know, or even just a local here, winning a freaking Evo event.
Oh, dude, you have no idea. Like, it's I don't want to give OSs for Australia, but like we've had it hard as a fighting game nation. I mean, we're on the other side of the world, which has made it hard to travel, and when we do, it's not cheap.
Nope, not at all.
And you know, we do have top level talent, but for the most part, compared to the world, it's always been a little bit lagging behind. So
yeah,
it's more of a like go over, experience international competition as much as you can, bring it back and try and foster it among the community and level up from there. But
that's such a hard concept,
and
man.
it's so hard with the amount
unsustainable.
Yeah, it's
unsustainable.
It's not sustainable at all. Which is why, like, say what you want about online. So depending on what the game you play, it's not the best and most efficient way of leveling up, but it does help. And we're in a generation where I feel like Australia has caught up to the rest of the world.
I think so. I think we're on a level with them now. Now, granted, they're elite of the elite, are still slightly higher than us, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But that's where that extra 1% of training against those type of people comes into it, in my opinion.
You see examples of that in Street Fighter, like ROF. He was at EVO Japan. He took down.
Almost beat Takedo too.
Yeah,
and
that was nuts. No, I remember watching that. And then just popping off like just where I was.
That's what I'm saying, though. I mean, look at us. Look how we react to almost beating them in a major tournament. Could you imagine when we win that major tournament? It's gonna be the most fucking awesome feeling ever.
No, dude, I just like I've been to international events where we might not have won or like, but we've, you know, some of our elites have taken down top level talent, like Aiken past Evo, he took down a couple of heavy hitters from Asia. From Japan, in Tekken at Evo, and it's great. We just go off.
That's what it is, though, because we're so starved of that opportunity that when we fucking take it, it's like, holy shit, we did it.
Yeah,
that's awesome. But that's what it is. That actually combines the community, which is an awesome feeling too. Combines the country, really, which is awesome.
Yeah, I feel like the opportunity to travel for the top Australian talent is steadily and surely increasing. So. We're going to see more of that. We're going to see more Dion's. We're going to see more ROF.
That comes back to sponsorships. If it gets to the point where a sponsor is heavily into a certain player, I think the idea of actually taking that player to certain regions and letting them practice there for like a couple of weeks or something every now and then while traveling for tournaments, I think that's really how you get that player to the elite level. That's one of the only ways, unless that player's balling and that player can travel on his own.
Yeah.
But we have to travel, in my opinion. We can't just get elite here. We can get really good here, but that barrier to win tournaments, the big ones, I think we have to travel more.
Yeah, I've had a few guys comment that the main barrier is the international exposure.
It has to be. Honestly, it has to be.
Because you can, like, it's one thing to watch people. It's one thing to foster, like, you know, everyone can learn theory, but the actual experience is a completely different thing.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that's the thing, man. We can get as good as we can here, but there's always going to be that threshold that's carrying the other internationals because they play. Think about it. If you're in America, you can actually verse Europeans online. You can also verse how many other states? 49, 50 other states in America. So you got so much density of talent over there. And then if you go to Europeans, you can verse all those while versing America.
Yeah, not to
Asia can verse all of Asia. Yeah, and then you got like all those, and we're left with Australia, who can barely play New Zealand and Perth. Like, what options do we have?
I don't even think you can. It's not. It's just like Perth has a better chance of just hitting up one of the southeastern countries than hitting New Zealand.
That's what I'm saying, and that's insane. Like, that's how, honestly, we are so stricken from actual playing one another that the fact that we actually get really good is a real testament
to itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why with those players that get that good, I really hope someday a sponsor actually goes out of their way to get that player out more, to get that player to the real elite level, man. Because the day an Aussie wins, I'm going to come out of retirement and be the number one supporter in the crowd just fucking waving that fucking flag.
100%.
That's the one thing. That's the one thing I always wanted from specifically when we were running SSs, but it doesn't even have to be SS, like a BAM or EVA. Just an Aussie winning it with internationals there.
Well, the talent's there, man. Like I can say, there's a lot of top talent across a lot of the games. You got Waz for NRS. You got Roth and Som and Rumors. Like a lot of Street Fighter players. You got Dion and like, dude, you have the killers coming out of Sydney in the form of Alchemist and Wreck. Yeah. It's just
that's what it is. Now talent's there.
Yeah,
talent's there.
Now's a good time.
Now we just have to realize how to nurture said talent. That's really what it is.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Go on.
Yeah, I was just. That's more like one of the few final questions I had for you. Is just I know it's been a while since you've been ingrained in the FGC. After Shadowloo and Street Fighter 4, I'm just gonna ask if you could comment on the main differences you've seen, like that you like or you don't like regarding to the how the FGC has like changed or has not changed.
I don't think I hate anything per se. It's not a hate thing. It's everything needs to adapt. So when I look at it in an esports perspective, I obviously come from the background of we popped off at absolutely everything that happened. We shouted, we yelled, we probably swore a few times. All that sort of background. That stuff was fun to me. Now, granted, in an esports society, it's not as prominent because it is a lot more professional. I could easily say that I hate that about esports, but at the same time, you're taking that with the reward coming back at you of you winning more and you actually turning that into a career. So if you can subsidize the popping off aspect of the FGC, all the grassroots sort of aspects, so it sucks to lose that, but you are gaining something. So initially, I'll be honest, I hated that. Oh my god, no one's popping off anymore. Really, no one's going out of their way popping off. So there is still pop-offs, but you know what I mean, over-the-top pop-offs. But you're subsidizing it.
Sorry to cut you off. Do you think the popping off, do you think it's speaks more to the game or the people or the generation? Or maybe all three?
Oh, because maybe a little bit all three, but I think people is probably the big one. It also comes down to what you're popping off about. There has to be an aspect, so we didn't just pop off for someone just winning. That's a celebration. A pop off is when you're beating a rival, when you're kind of wanting, not shoving it in their face, but kind of shoving it in their face. That's what I mean. So popping off's different to celebrating.
In your opinion, there are less rivalries than there were back in the day.
Has hurt that. Yeah, I genuinely believe that. Yeah. But as I said, man, it's a different feeling going to an esports event nowadays. When my last event was a BAM back in like 2015, 16. But I don't hate it because it's adaptation. You have to adapt with the times. Reality-wise, you have to. It's the same with SF5. I could easily sit here and bag the game, but I get nothing from that. It's either adapt or let people enjoy that game. That's it.
True. No, that's a very good outlook to have regarding the game. Those were all the questions I had, man. I don't know if you want to cover. Like, we usually come together this segment where I just ask you questions as well, but I think we covered everything I wanted to cover. I guess we can begin question time. I guess I'm from the chat. If not, I always have like 3 or 4 ready.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, during your time in SF4, what was your most saltiest loss?
Oh, there's a YouTube video about it. There's quite a few, man. There's quite a few, but I think I don't know what the hell the video is called, but It's when I thought I had the win against Akira. Now Akira is like he was basically we looked at him at a god level in SF4, like he because he was living in Japan, and anytime he visited, he'd basically maul most of us with his Sagat, and so I had the chance to beat him finally, and it was I winner goes to the final. I'm pretty sure it was, so we were both in winners finals. And I did the combo of Sakura, so it ended with EX Tattoo in the corner, straight into Ultra, which works almost every time. And I stood up after I did the Ultra motion. So the Ultra comes out, and I hear it hit, but for whatever reason, it only hit 3 times. And while we both stood up, Akira runs back, goes to his stick, inputs Ultra, and I fucking lose.
Oh no! Oh, that's horrible. I think I've seen that.
Shit's on camera. Yeah, it's on camera.
I'm gonna have to look for that and put it in the related links when I upload this. But yeah,
that's by far
because I can't remember seeing him run back, but I see you getting up and walking back and realizing, oh crap, it's not.
I'm too late. I'm too late. The worst part was, granted, the loss itself, but the worst part was we had a friend of ours named Khan who hadn't been in the scene for a while, like actual playing wise. He was at the tournament and he's like, he comes to me when I get off the seat. He's like, "This is why you never get your ass off the seat, mate." I'm like, "Yeah, man, it's exactly what I want to hear."
Dude, I'm sure everyone has heard a rendition of that quote, like "never get up before it says KO" or some shit like that.
Oh man, that was such a bad feeling. Just remembering it hurts. Genuinely.
Oh man.
Yeah. But I can't. There's a few real salty moments, but I mean, the FGC will always do that. Fighting games in general will always do that to you. But that one by far and away, because I would have been a 2-time in a row winner of BAM, and I don't think that happened back then. I can't remember. It didn't happen often, if it did happen, and so that would have been a really good thing to carry on me. I would have liked to have won BAM twice in a row, but shit happens, man. Shit happens.
To flip it, what's one of the most memorable victories you've had? If not the most memorable.
Memorable victories. Probably my first time beating Toxie.
Okay.
Yeah, because Toxie was essentially, if you're from Melbourne, Toxie was the all. He was the guy you had to beat by far and away. Everyone was good, but he was a Kuma. That's what he was. He was actually real life Akuma in the game. And I remember I think it was at a Galactic Circus or it was a Ramba. I can't remember exactly, but I remember studying him to a core, man. Because I had played him online a few times, and I had beaten him online a couple of times, but he'd always win the sets by a decent amount. But I'd go back and rewatch the videos. Man, I took this stuff like it was actual class.
Yeah.
I was studying everything and all that.
Which is the mindset.
Which is what you have to do. If you want to get good at the game, you have to. Agreed. And I saw a couple of tendencies. And when I saw those tendencies, I put them into practice in the actual tournament. And that feeling, that's how I won the game. So one of his tendencies was he likes to sweep a lot. And basically the whole outset of mine was I have to hit that. Like if I can hit it once, a jumping combo on his sweep, I can win the thing. And I remember landing it to get the win. And I'm like, God damn, practice actually worked. That's a good fucking feeling. That's a good fucking feeling, man.
I got a question from the chat from Blind Duality. Who is your favorite fighter and why is it Khabib?
What gave it away? I don't know if Khabib's my favorite fighter. I think this is probably my favorite thing about Khabib. He's awesome, but favorite fighter, Aldo. Has to be Jose Aldo for me. I think ever since the WEC days.
Yeah.
He's the fight style, the person, he's a really good dude as well. I wish he learned English. Granted, that's probably the biggest thing I have on him, but that's like nitpicking, really.
Yeah, but a lot of Brazilians did make the effort. JDS, I remember he couldn't speak a hint of it. Now you can have a full-on conversation with him. That's what I mean.
Yeah, it just comes out to
for as long as he was champion. That's a shame.
Yeah, going back to that question, it has to be Aldo for me. What about yours?
For me, it'd always be Rashad. I'll hold Aldo up there. I hold a few fighters up in that little circle. These are my favorite. Like I'll get real emotional if they lose, man. But like,
Oh man, Aldo versus McGregor.
Rashad.
I literally lost my soul that day.
Yeah, yeah. I wasn't right that whole week. I wasn't right that whole week. It didn't help because like I going to a pub and like the Irishes were full out in force.
Oh
like,
man. Oh man.
What can I do? What can I do? That is a rematch. If I could set just one match, just one mystery match, if I could set just one,
it'll be that.
It'll be that rematch.
It has to be McGregor versus Aldo. Absolutely. If that rematch doesn't happen, we've been robbed. Put it that way. We've absolutely.
But it's a shame because I feel like it's not going to happen at this point. Because McGregor is like, what's the point now? Why do I go back to that fight?
But even his fans are actually starting to push the idea, which is a good thing.
Ooh,
because yeah, they have. So basically, there's a crowd with McGregor. It's the 13-second crowd, and it's the crowd that's seen him lose a few times recently. Mm-hmm. So that's the actual fight fans versus the casuals. Mm-hmm. Fuck, I hate that 13 seconds. Anyway,
all right.
Now I'm just angry.
Yeah. Who's one of the most international fighting game players that you hold in the highest regard?
Whew.
And you haven't gotten one, and you can double on with the question that you might have not gotten the chance to play and have always wanted to.
Okay, so I'll say one without the getting to play him because I did get to play him. That's Takedo for me. Has to be Takedo. Didn't get to play. Oof. Trying to think of. Probably. I wanted to play PR Barrock for quite a while. It's a weird one, but for quite a while I wanted to play him.
Yeah, he was so hyped to watch for a long time.
He was. I mean, he made boxer fun.
Yeah.
He was. Yeah, he's an odd one for me because people don't hear me talk about him much. But I really did want to play him.
Yeah,
quite a while.
I still remember his match with Infiltration, where he went.
I think it was Capcom Cup, if I remember, or Evo.
I think that was Evo. It was Evo where he went. The old dude, remind me his name. The red guy, blue hair.
Haken.
Yeah. Oh man, that was one hell of a match. Shout out to Infiltration, the science behind that guy.
He was an awesome player as well. Actually, he's probably another one I didn't get to play. It's a few, but yeah, it's a good question.
Another one for me. What aside from being a Street Fighter guy, what other fighting game was like one of the most hyped to watch for you?
Marvel. Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 as well, but Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 for me. It's that till this day. It's probably the most fun game to watch for me, to be honest.
Marvel
and I love SF4. It's Marvel. Ultimate. No, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
I am totally there with you, man. Like we can do a whole podcast on how such a shame that Marvel Infinite has not popped off to the level that we had hoped, but. Yeah, especially
those comeback mechanics, man, in that game. It's a hype machine waiting to happen, essentially.
Not just that. Comebacks. Not just that, but the Marvel Ultimate Marvel 3, at its roots, the game and the community is what FGC is about, and everything I love.
Absolutely.
Like the hype level surrounding that game, like the depth to it, just the visuals. The shit talk between that community, my lord! You can go and spend a good day and just watch compilations of shit talk and hype surrounding that game. It is actually ridiculous. But
honestly, that's the best translation of a game I've seen. I reckon Marvel 2. You can count the first Marvel 3, but Ultimate Marvel 3, I count them as one game. But that transition from Marvel 2 to Marvel 3. Both games they're different games, but man, the hype, the crowd, the feeling behind it, similar. And that's why I love it. That's why I love that whole era so much, which is weird because I never really played Marvel's Capcom games, but they were freaking.
I think I've touched it once trying to pick it up, and the reason I remember exactly my first time playing that game. It was back in the days when like Dick Smiths or JB would like have the game on display and let you play it, and I had not played competitively. I had played Marvel Capcom, and I had not. It had a different layout where it didn't have the light, medium, heavy across the board with like kicks, and one call it a petty reason to not play a fighting game, but I was not used to it. I'm like, yeah, I'm done here. I can't.
Nah, I'm done. I'm out.
I can't pick this up. Why is there not a light, medium, and a heavy?
what is this shit? There's a funny story to Marvel vs. Capcom as well. When we went to see him, Steph's whole shtick was his Rocket Raccoon. That was his character. And he had a mix-up. I can't remember who his assist was. He's probably going to yell at me now for not remembering. But he had a Rocket Raccoon mix-up that you have to guess left or right, essentially. And Takeda, he was playing Takeda in the tournament. And then we're playing him, and we're wondering how Takeda's guessing correctly so much. Like, we're sitting next to Steph, but we're looking at the game, and we're like, how the hell is he guessing correctly every time? And then during the last round, I don't know why, but we decided to look at Takeda for once while the mix-up was happening. Homeboy was looking straight at the fucking stick to see the input. I'm like, oh, that's why he has 100% success rate.
No wonder. Holy hell. That's why you sit... Dude, for some of these games, that's why you sit behind your opponent.
Nah, but that's why we even got to the point where people started bringing, like, separators between each... where they were sitting there with one another. I'm like, it's gotten that serious? Jesus.
Oh, wow. That's hilarious.
Oh, man.
One more from me. If you could have called out one person, like new or old, for one, doesn't have to be a grudge match, but a big match for Street Fighter 4, who would it be?
Shang Tsung? Probably Shang Tsung. Because he always... He beat me a lot in tournament, but it was always his Seth. His Seth was my nightmare. My Seth in general was my nightmare. But he's one person I'd like an actual proper set with in a tournament sort of set. But he'd be the one.
No, it never happened in tournament, or
we versed in tournaments. He won. I think our record was probably 4-1 to him. Yeah. So that's everyone else I versed, if I remember correctly, other than probably Human Bomb when he left. But everyone else I versed, I had at least at the very worst an evenish ratio against them in tournament at the very worst. But Shang is the only one that had a clear advantage on me, which kind of bites me to this day. But we're essentially brothers, me and him. So it hurts probably even more because of that. That's probably the biggest one.
Yeah, dude. The biggest rivalries I've had, like with my brothers in Mario Party, just because they're my brothers.
Dude, fucking, I almost lost a friend to the new Mario Party on Switch. Like that game is made for losing friends. Like honestly,
dude, those games like that and old board games, like the old Nintendo party games, and like just they're as bad as Monopoly.
Absolutely, dude, they are horrible.
You got people stealing like your stars just because of shit you did during Christmas.
Dude, honestly, you want to really test your friendship? Play Mario Party for a couple hours.
100%.
Oh man.
Yeah, I think we're gonna call it there, dude. It's been.
Oh, my dude, it's been fun.
It was real good. Thank you for coming on and giving these guys a history lesson in everything that's been happening.
Sit around, though. Sit around, children. I'm like fucking 26, and I'm telling you,
dude. It's kind of you kind of got that like Baxter feel to you. I mean, he's not old by any stretch of the imagination, but. Dude, you can pretty much give him OG status.
Yeah, me and him are quite similar age-wise. He even came from my background as well, if I remember.
Yeah.
Me and Baxter are really similar.
Yeah.
Good dude.
Good dude. All right, dude. You want to give shout-outs before we head off?
I don't know who to say. It's weird because you're not part of the scene anymore, so my literally only shout-out is my family and you. Nah, honestly, shout out to the the whole scene, everyone that's trying to thrive the scene, like now the Couch Warriors crew, OHN crew, everyone, Tasmania crew, I don't know their names, but them, anyone that's trying to promote the scene and actually genuinely push it to what we were doing back then as well, and what everyone was doing before us, that's what it is. It's all about growth. So shout out to them, shout out to Steve and Chris Ho, that's probably the main one I'll shout out. He's the undersold person of really the SS era. That guy did so much behind the scenes.
Dude, yeah, you have no idea. Like, the amount of respect I have for that guy. Like, every once in a while, you'll get a... Like, I don't know how random it is that you'll get a Chris Ho is a boss tweet by Eden Muddins, or like Dread Tech or someone who knows how much of a god that guy is, and I'm just like,
He is, man. I'm telling you, man. He's like the Godfather.
100%.
Nicest dude in the world as well.
Nicest dude in the world, dude. He's down to
absolutely.
help with anything, but also, which is why, like, I'm just so happy for that guy. I don't want to go into because he spent so much time organizing, and now he's had real time to like actually play stuff. So that's why I'm so happy for that dude. Yeah,
it's like seeing your children grow up. It's like, I'm proud of you, man. I'm proud of you, dude.
Where can the people catch you?
Oh, where can they find me? Fuck, I don't even know what my handles are. The Funk Soul Brother on Instagram. All one word, obviously. Soul spelled with SOL. And Twitter is just Funk Soul Brother, but with 2 R's.
Yeah.
That's just confusing. I gotta fix my handles.
Definitely check out my man Soul for his Instagram. Takes amazing level pictures, especially with the work he's gonna pull out at Anno Expo this coming Saturday. No,
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Next.
Friday.
Wait. Next. I was gonna say.
I forgot what day it was.
If it's this Saturday, I could make it. But yeah, definitely check this guy out, man. Thanks again, my brother, for being on. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise, my dude.
All right, dudes. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Once again, this is your host, The Beast, on this episode of The Beast Dance with good friend Soul. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We will catch you next time. Peace.